One of the things that is possible, according to me, is in Kerala, if we can think about a new form of organization, like a cooperative, not the traditional one, but something like what these FPOs have attempted to do, where there is no interference from government, more like a knowledge collective or knowledge commons. If we can think about some such new structure, and if the state really passes required law, since education is in the concurrent list, it's possible for the state government to actually come up with some enabling legislation. So I've come out with a short paper on this. If we can tease out that cooperative system, uh, I think it will be very, very interesting to work on. It may take some time, and it will be acceptable. I think politically it will be acceptable to the people of Kerala, because it's not talking about runaway private ownership. Let's do something which is collectively effective,
Mm.
rather than try and do it through a hierarchical process. I think this is what
Okay.
I understand basically. So, is there something that we can collectively do which will be useful to people in some area where
Mm-hmm.
I guess the important thing is to come together and do
Yep.
something like a cooperative, obviously
Okay.
without all the negatives that the idea of cooperativism has earned. One of the things that I've been working on in the last few years is higher education governance. The NEP, National Education Policy,
Mm-hmm.
is really a very, very, it's a great document, according to what, according to my understanding. I think
Mm-hmm.
it has also been opposed because it talks about the individual merits, and it talks about, how privatization will have to come about, because government may not have the money to spend, and also universities have not done well when they have been supported by government, especially the traditional universities, while some government investments in IITs and so on, those efforts have been kind of borne some fruit. I mean, they've done reasonably well. Not exactly international standard, but they're at least trying to get there. But there is a huge breed of new private institutions coming, where right now the fees are high, but I think there is also an effort to bring down the cost of education through different means, wherein entrepreneurship can actually solve some of these problems. So some kind of social entrepreneurial efforts are being attempted, and of course there are some corporates also behind these efforts. One of the things that is possible, according to me, is in Kerala, if we can think about a new form of organization, like a cooperative, not the traditional one, but something like what these FPOs have attempted to do, where there is no interference from government, more like a knowledge collective or knowledge commons. If we can think about some such new structure, and if the state really passes required law, since education is in the concurrent list, it's possible for the state government to actually come up with some enabling legislation. So I've come out with a short paper on this. If we can tease out that cooperative system, uh, I think it will be very, very interesting to work on. It may take some time, and it will be acceptable. I think politically it will be acceptable to the people of Kerala, because it's not talking about runaway private ownership. There is some work that is going on in UK, and I'm in touch with some people there. There is a cooperative college university that is being proposed, which is when I last heard about 2 weeks back, they have not gotten the permission, but they're likely to get permission for that. A cooperative university where students also will have some stake in whatever form, and alumni will have some stake in the running of the institution. So we'll have to look at students very differently, not the way professors and teachers currently look at them. So I was just thinking maybe that is one area which we could possibly work on. And similarly, we can think of many areas, and I think one of the areas is really FPO, farmer producer organizations. My
Uh-huh.
interest is only to do something useful. The long run, I think youngsters have to take over, and they will have to, kind of run the show. But then we can always support them in whatever way we can. And I'll be very happy to come to Trivandrum, meet you, and I think there is tremendous. I mean, everybody knows this. In Kerala, there's so much potential, but we are not able to come together, and I think that's because politics has not really, politicians have not really tried to bring people together. I think an ideal society is one where governance is achieved through participation of people through self order. So I've been a student of self organization, self order, and such ideas, and some of those things I have practiced and kind of have worked. Leading from behind and jumping into the front only when there is danger. I think Gandhian ideas. I always look for people who are actually, intellectuals in Kerala who could probably look at this kind of a paper. And just this morning, a friend of mine told me about a school called Anantamurthy Academy in Trivandrum, and
Right.
started by some ex IAS person called Suresh, who left in disgust the service. Before his retirement, he left the bureaucracy and started. So that may be a good starting point to see at a practical level how they have done. For instance, can we think of a university which can run in perpetuity, not on the basis of people, but on the basis of a principle, where youngsters are given an opportunity to take leadership position by the age of 45, 50. Some really capable persons should become chancellor or vice chancellor and so on. So I think there is an opportunity in Kerala today. I think because people are, disenchanted. I mean, all over the country, the world is talking about some kind of platform cooperativism. I think in future,
Sir.
what is going to happen is very soon, this university professors will become redundant,
Hmm.
meaning they may not be required because you can get the best of classes from online. But then,
Hmm.
what will their activity be? I think it will have to be very much about tying up with local society, developing new ways of doing things which are sustainable, and that's a huge task actually. So we can
Yes.
involve students in such matters, and I think about 50 to 60% of the time, maybe faculty will be outside the
Yes,
academy,
exactly.
uh, leaving it out with, you know with agriculturists, with people who are trying to do new things, culture. There's so much opportunity actually, tourism, I mean, sustainability and so on. So, and if students start taking interest in these things at that young age, I think, there'll be, the transformation can be really, really rapid. So we should really, root for that. Already we are feeling the pressure of lessons, better lessons being available on the net. So what is it that we are going to do? So we have to really get in there with, emotional energy, and mentor these kids very, very differently, and not depend on content information for teaching. So that is really happening. So I think there's a very good opportunity for this kind of cooperative mechanisms.